ball knocked loose. White dive on it.
This is twice now the Celtics have been first to the floor.
They try to save with Horford. Unbelievable.
Boston first to the floor. So good.
Brown fakes, fires up the three. Bang! Tatum dives on the floor. Everybody dives. Jaylen Brown with the flush. Blocked by Porzingis. He's doing it all. Tatum spinning, driving, layup. Got it. Washington drives. Blocked by White. Oh, what a block from Derek White.
All right, welcome in. First of the Floor podcast. Ben Vallis here, along with Jake Eisenberg. Jake, our second podcast your second podcast in less than 12 hours. The First of the Floor's second podcast in less than 12 hours. I think we're officially back, Jake. How you doing?
Yeah, I think that is a good indicator. 2 pods in a day reminds me of the middle of the season, instant reactions, late night, next morning, underrated plays. You know, it's preseason. It is quick. You know, you've been counting down X amount of days to media day and training camp. But then I'm like looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh shit, like preseason is like just over a week away.
And thank God, honestly, like I know it's quick, but like the days are short. Like maybe the weeks are short. I should say the days are long. Fuck.
The days are long.
This has been a long day.
Months are short.
Hence my slip just now. A long day for me personally, but the days are very long, and maybe the weeks and months are a little bit shorter. And of course, as we get to the end of the horizon and discover the mirage is real, maybe it feels like it's been in short in hindsight, but it's been a brutally long season. But look, Celtics Media Day plus 1 day of sideline interviews at training camp. The question is, Jake, just to jump into it, what off-season takes have you since pivoted on after 1.5 days of the Celtics players and coaches being back in front of microphones?
I will say I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed Media Day and how excited I was because it's just such a different year compared to the last 2 seasons where the year 2024 season, you're bringing in Kristaps, you're bringing in Drew. It's like, this has to be the year. You're coming in as defending champions, as like completely returning roster. Everyone talking about the red dot between their head, between their eyes, you know, ready to take down the back-to-back championship. And this has definitely not had that same level of intensity for me as a fan. And so I was just happy for my own self. Like my fandom kind of came rushing back through me, seeing, Drew Carter and Jaylen Brown up at the desk and seeing Jordan Walsh up there talking about how he can't miss threes. I want to throw it to you because honestly, I'm not sure if I've actually pivoted off anything. Because you want to pivot immediately, and then so I'll throw it to you.
And you want the good premise as well, like not to bury the lead. Is that what they say? But of course we've got some stuff. At least I have some stuff that I pivoted on. But like you want a good setup for like a podcast episode as well. So I think that's a fun place to start. And plus, everyone is doing the media day recaps, and we'll get to some broader recaps in a sec. We'll also get to some more Tatum recovery stuff on the Patreon pod after this, which will be the 3rd podcast in the day.
Wow.
Very quickly before I get to my first pivot point, Carl Saar in the chat here, I believe, is our inaugural first ever YouTube member, which we will need to discuss with Carl personally about the benefits that come to our lone YouTube member. But obviously, that's a great way to support the show and to support what we're trying to do here. And as our Patreon subscribers have seen, the majority of the proceedings that we get are either going to our Vegas trip for Summer League next year or into purchasing like newer equipment, cameras, microphones, etc., whatever it might be for the production purposes of the show. So you are investing back in the show. Thank you very much, Carl. Very much appreciate it. My first pivot point, Xavier Tillman, which is something I've wanted to pivot on for a long time. And obviously there's a lot that remains to be seen, Jake, but in terms of all-time examples of saying all the right things and saying all the things that need to be said and probably have gone unsaid for a long time, we finally got some insights into what's been going on with Xavier Tillman. So I don't know if I have the quote here. I'm brutally unprepared.
I have some
about the knee swelling.
Yeah. He said that his knee would swell up like a balloon after like a scrimmage.
Yeah,
and
not great.
He just knew that he was not going to be able to give anything to the team. So he was at the top of my list as well.
Mhm.
Like, of everything that happened, that would be the thing that I think was actually tangible as to changing my opinion on if this is real, if it could be actually real.
Mhm.
Like, can someone change something about themselves as like a player in one off season that we really don't know? And the Tillman health thing, that like he was, there's a reason we were able to acquire him for like a second round pick and Lamar Stevens. Like, he's not a star player or anything like that. But
Yeah.
game 3 happened. We watched it. His whole calling card in the NBA is a guy that can like switch and move as a big man. And he just like couldn't move, basically. It's pretty obvious when he was out there, and it was like, what happened to this guy? Now, this has been a problem for him going back to college, and that's why he fell in the draft. So while it's awesome that he was like, so he got an injection in January, which apparently didn't do anything, and then he got a second injection in March that had like stem cells. Firstly, where do I get one?
Please.
I'm willing to pay an exorbitant, just inject it all over my body. Please.
Absolutely. Inside and outside of my body.
What are we doing? Why is this so hard to acquire?
You can get PRP in Australia now.
Okay.
It is available. I don't know the legitimacy of the practitioners who are offering it, but they will take your plasma and put it in a centrifuge and inject it back into you for not that much money, but stem cells, understandably harder to come by.
Maybe when I'm over in the States sometime next year, that I can figure something out, because I would personally like some, because my cells no longer have stems.
No.
Is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So great news for him that he's feeling better. He said, like, my knee has like, it's the least swelling I've had since I've gotten to Boston. But he needed 2 injections.
Mhm.
And he's like, and he didn't say, I've got no swelling. He said, it's the least swelling I've had.
Yeah. I knew it was going to be an uphill battle for me, Jake. I suppose I should clarify, like, pivoting in terms of like, this wasn't on my radar of like hopes coming into the season, and just presumed that Xavier Tillman was cooked, and so cooked that not only would he not see any playing time, but that he was untradeable. And again, like, it's really just through the lens of him saying all of the things that we've kind of, there's been a Xavier Tillman shaped void in our lives, and he's like finally filling it with some positivity, some attention to the idea that like there have been massive glaring deficiencies in his value on and off the court, and like his trade value, I guess is what I mean by value off the court, in that like there was some hype in the acquisition of Xavier Tillman when it did happen, and we were like, oh, Brad's cooking, like unbelievable deal, like we got him for nothing. And the thing that was like the strongest attribute for Xavier Tillman was his defensive versatility. And now I'm like, please stop me here if I'm going too far, but like, Nemi's shooting threes. Suddenly, Xavier Tillman is like, he's back defensively with that defensive versatility. He can switch onto anyone, a la Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Are we replacing Al Horford in the aggregate, Jake? Is it happening? Is Brad Stevens moneyballing our big man rotation? It would seem to me that he is.
I love it. The Nemius Cater shooting threes got me. It's like I can't stop him that quickly.
Thank you for letting me carry on.
Because Tillman also said that he's been shooting a lot of threes.
I know, and that's going to get to that.
That's the part I'm not going to be falling for. Again, like he's got to prove it to me on that.
He's doing it with his eyes closed.
I wish I could shoot as well as Xavier Tillman, because I know these guys are just money when there's no contests out there. But I think you've convinced me in that I've pivoted on, like, to me, Tillman was a complete non-factor. Yeah. Like, I was not even considering him as part of the rotation. And now I'm like, open, like that could be a thing. And that would actually change. I mean, we're talking a little bits here, but considering how bad the big man rotation projects to be, if he can be that defensive guy that he has been in his career, a guy that was able to battle Anthony Davis in the playoffs, a guy that was able to switch on to Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the NBA Finals. If he could be that, then that would be a huge boost to this Celtics defense, because right now they're projected to be in like the bottom 10, bottom 5 defensively. And that's because of the big man rotation. If he can come in and be a bit of an anchor for 15 minutes a night, that would be huge.
Mhm.
And that's not something that I even thought was a possibility. So I'm willing to, that's at least a somewhat of a pivot. That's just
that's
45
all we're
degrees.
looking for. Yeah, and like again, just to, and you've done well there, and sort of backing up the thought process going into this segment is like largely everything that goes into media day and comes out of media day, it's like very predictable. And so if you just get a little nugget of something that sort of changes your mental approach to the season, even if it's like your mental approach to what like 6 minutes off the bench for a backup big might look like, especially in a season like this, it's like kind of important. So appreciate Xavier Tillman for pivoting me mentally, and it sounds like you, Jake, as well. I've got 1.5 more pivots left, and the first one kind of feeds into the other one. Again, hear me out. Like, these are all crazy edge cases.
I love it. This is media day. This is the point. This is supposed to be fun.
Anfernee Simons, not as bad as people are saying defensively, according to Joe Mazzola, Jake. And I'm here for that. I've always had in the back of my mind this like, what can we do with this guy? Like, what can the Celtic culture do on top of what is like largely an offensively dominant skill set? We know that the Anfernee Simons somewhat led Portland Trailblazers finished last season top 5 defensively. There are few signs and limited signs, but there are not zero signs. And, you know, again, Anfernee Simons and Joe Mazzola, as it pertains to Anfernee Simons, said all of the right things about the doubts, I suppose. We know what he can do, and there was sort of a focal point on the obvious need to build him up defensively and add some defensive value and ability to his game. Now, the reason I have this second to Xavier Tillman is, unfortunately, I think this is even less likely than the Xavier Tillman skill bump. But man, like the value that it would add, whether it's to hold on to Anfernee Simons, and I'm like, I found myself shifting in that direction as well. Like, man, it could really add some value for Tatum-led Celtics, or the trade value that it would finally put him above that like level of, okay, now this guy, like there is a market for him as well. So I don't know, even though we're doing this segment, Jake, I don't know if I can say I've pivoted in terms of my confidence, but it's like, maybe I haven't pivoted, but I've like turned my head like pre-pivot. Pivot would be the next move, if that makes sense.
I think I can give myself, you know, there's 180 degrees or 360 degrees. I did fail geometry in 10th grade, so bear with me here. To pivot, right? To do a full 360, like you can pivot a degree or two here.
Sure.
And I think Anfernee Simons is going to try defensively.
Yeah.
And
so what does that look like?
What we don't know is how hard he was trying previously. He certainly kind of indicated with what he said that he wasn't trying before. He's like, I know I can do it. It's just a matter of doing it. And I'm genuinely somewhat skeptical of that, because I do think defense is partly effort and intensity. But like, remember when D'Angelo Russell at Lakers Media Day said he wants to be like Derek White?
Yeah.
He didn't change at all, and he's now he's playing for the Mavs on $6 million as opposed to the 20 plus that he was on. So like, I have that in the back of my mind. I don't feel like I know Anfernee Simons in the way that I know D'Angelo Russell and the type of person and player he is and his want to. But I think Simons is going to try. But I just don't think that defense is as much purely effort and intensity as a lot of people like to think. Like, being good defensively is a learned skill, and playing hard is a learned skill. And if you haven't been practicing it like Derek White has for the past your whole life, like Payton Pritchard had to play with this level of intensity to make it this far. Like, he knows how to. Mm-hmm. The good thing is Anfernee Simons is like a 6'5", very athletic dude. And if he does buy in and he does try, I'm intrigued to see what it looks like, because the numbers are horrendous. Like we've talked about, 0 first percentile type stuff on some of his seasons, like dead last in some advanced defensive metrics. Can he just like? There's a huge gap between that and like the 30th percentile. Like still negative, but not negative to the point where you notice every possession.
Well, yeah, and the Celtics have been pretty publicly like non-committal to Anfernee Simons, like short term, let alone long term. And so, like that lack of commitment, what like kind of defensive effort is that going to spur from him? Like you're presumably not much. And again, media day, people are saying things to the media. They're not saying maybe not necessarily what's truly in their heart, but there was just enough on it. I guess the fact that Joe spoke to it as well, like I feel like he would maybe skip over that if he just knew that he wasn't going to get something out of Anfernee Simons, or at least just like an effort, let alone if there's actually any sort of material outcomes out of that effort. But I feel like the fact that Joe peppered on some additional talking points on top of what Anfernee Simons had to say, that's kind of what sort of ultimately piqued my interest and got me to not pivot, but sort of like glance over my shoulder a little bit, Jake.
Yeah, and Moz, I was just about to say the same thing. You read my mind. It is a contract year. Like Anfernee Simons has every reason to play the best defense of his life this season. He'll earn himself a lot of money if he proves that he can play in a solid defensive ecosystem and prove that he's not a garbage defender. Because we've seen, as I just said with D'Angelo Russell, the archetype of the guy that's like very good offensively, but provides you nothing defensively, got $6 million on the free agent market this offseason. Not the $27 million he's currently getting paid. And I'm sure he would like to get paid in that 20 plus range if he could as the years move on here.
Yeah, same, like roughly the same salary range. So the 0.5 pivot was the fact that, and I said that this previous one fed into this, Payton Pritchard, I thought was, I guess in my mind, I was like, this guy deserves to start and rightfully deserves to start. And if he was public about that and was like, I think I've earned my like starting privilege, my starting spot, I would not contest that at all. I would not feel in any way negative about him speaking up, maybe above, like, he's like, obviously it's the coach's decision, right, to decide what the starting lineup is. And sometimes I think players can speak out of school about what they're entitled to there. In Payton Pritchard's case, I would not think that he was not entitled to that. And despite that, he was very like, I'm open to whatever role I get, whether I'm coming off the bench and coming in at that 6-minute mark, or if I'm starting for this team. Like, I know that I can contribute. I know that my value to this team. And I guess I found that surprising. And so I guess I'm pivoting from my stance of like, he needs to start. He's entitled to start. And if you don't start him, you're risking like your existing relationship between the franchise and the player. And now I'm kind of like, well, like, I guess he doesn't care. Like, I guess he knows his value. He was just the 6th man of the year. So like, arguably the most valuable person off the bench. And it seems like he's okay to continue along those lines, if that makes sense.
Pritchard really impressed me at Media Day. And I don't think I learned anything necessarily, but his leadership, Moz and me are on the same page today. Yeah, Pete's leadership talk fired me up. Like, culture is definitely thrown around, I think, in the NBA, in businesses. Like, you go any job interview and they talk about how they value the culture. Every team in the NBA talks about how they're trying to build a culture. And we have the history of Celtics culture and Celtics pride. But like, that can waver in these in-between periods. Like, you lose a bunch of guys. Tatum's injured. You have a ton of turnover, guys that are unproven. Like, that culture will be tested. And it's a testament to Pritchard, who is as a person, but the Celtics culture in that he came in and who are his vets? Al Horford, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday, Derek White. And to hear him talk like you're saying about it, he could absolutely go up there and be like, yeah, I expect to start, like, but for him to go up there in this type of season where, it's championship, it's not championship or bust, and be like, don't care what it's about, what it is. I'm going to play the role that Joe asked me to and get complete buy-in. And that's just how it's going to be. Like, he got asked, how do you get buy-in from the locker room in a year where, you maybe don't have championship aspirations, and Pritchard was like, well, they shouldn't be in our locker room.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm
it.
like, fuck, man, this dude, like, it's not a, like, you hear all the stories, you see the dribbling drill, but you know, hear his fingers are bleeding because he was practicing ball handling drills so much. Like, it's not just fan fiction. Like, he's a true sicko. And I think that Jaylen is exactly like that. And I think that the culture, I felt that most with listening to Pritchard. And I felt like the other guys like Minot and Gaza talking about, you know, being with Joe Mazzulla. That was a big takeaway, I think, for me. Maybe that's a pivot. I've kind of pivoted off your pivot.
Nice.
I was a believer in the culture, but, you know, I just wasn't really thinking about it or caring about it as much for this season. But it's cool to see everybody like really towing the line and really feeling like there's a consistent message about who they're going to be and who they're going to try and be this season. And I thought Pritchard's voice was like very, very clear in that way.
Yeah, and like this is not a pivot rather, but like my personal level of intrigue towards this season is like pretty fucking high, I think, given like what the expectations have been the last 2 years. And this is something we've kind of like worked ourselves into, I think, as fans and as a podcast and like as a community. Like you're referring to the Discord and the Patreon as well. Like obviously all-time low coming off the, you know, premature end of the season, the Tatum injury, etc. And like this sort of convergence of, you know, this investment in these auditions, if you want to call it that, of all these young players and like how many, if any, can emerge as like useful, valuable players going forward. The fact that some of our like notably talented players who have had diminished roles in the past now have magnified roles. And then like the last week or so, you pepper in, we're going to get to this on the Patreon, the sudden emergence of like Tatum may very well be back at some point this year as well. It's like my intrigue is like very fucking high. So I'm very excited for the preseason to start. And it's been great to get these little dribbles of content. Looking at the media day and first day of training camp, more macro, like zoomed out view, Jake, getting away from pivots, like is there anything else that's just kind of stood out to you or surprised you in any way, shape or form?
I had a few like, you know, individual things that I can get to as well, but the overall thing is there's a very clear emphasis on pace and intensity. And it's somewhat disappointing that it's only happening now, but I really wanted to see what this team could have looked like with a pace version, like a curveball. It's like, okay, now we're playing as fast as we can for a quarter, or we're going to play like we have the ability to play fast and not slow it down as much. So, but everyone's talking about it. I saw Gaza being like, that was one of the more intense, like training camp days I've had, and that's clearly and teams come into the season all the time and say they want to run and they want to play fast. Like I feel like LeBron's teams always talk about that and he always ends up just, you know, playing actually one of the slowest in the league. So we'll see how much it actually carries over because the pace is just relentless, and Halliburton makes a lot of that possible. But you have to practice that. It's just a learned, you know, habit. It's a learned behavior that every time there's a make, every time something happens, doesn't matter what, like if you play awesome defense for 23 seconds and someone hits a three, there's not a moment like there's no, oh, you exhale and your shoulders drop for a second, you take the ball out, you reset. It's we're already up the court before the other team's able to celebrate how awesome that possession was. Like that's what the Pacers were so good at. It's like you feel like you've cracked them, you've had a big play, and TJ McConnell's just hit like a 12-footer on the other end in 6 seconds and completely neutralized that awesome possession you just had. But that is really hard to execute. So I'm interested to see them try.
Well, yeah, and former Grizzlies coach Taylor Jenkins was apparently present at training camp today, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but that they were like a leading offense, not like number one ranked offense, but like a top ranked offense under him while having one of the lower 3-point attempt volumes as well, which I think is clearly feeds into like the new directive and like how we're going to have to find ways to be successful offensively with diminished shooting talent. That said, I mean, up front, like top 4-ish guys, like extremely high 3-point shooting talent as well with like the Pritchards, the Anfernee Simons, the Sam Houses, potentially Neemias Queta. of it all. So very excited there. But, good to see them like pulling out at all stops and like bringing in personnel who have been successful in different forms of offense. Of course, different compared to what the Celtics have been running in the past few years. So that's an exciting little wrinkle as well. I guess a couple of things that stood out to me from training camp was that a couple of people had called out the fact that Luka Garza had been a quote unquote standout. I don't know if that's just like the realistic view on that is like, well, it's not a lot to like take away from the big man rotation of like, oh, Garza's really stood out. As like, well, what does that just say?
He's standing out from what?
Exactly. So that's definitely one.
No. Like Jalen was asked like, who stood out, and he said Luka Garza. So, in another 1 degree, 2 degree pivot, have I become more open to the concept that Garza can be like a legit good offensive player? Because all he needs to do is hit 36% of his threes, and I know he's going to be a good processor and be a good passer. So that's exciting. But I liked Jordan Walsh. He was also confident. I might write something about Walshy. He talked about how like Drew Holiday was a source of inspiration about becoming like a star role player, and I like going back to the culture thing. It's like, I mean, what an environment for Walsh, Baylor, Pritchard, I guess, but like especially the guys that weren't playing. It's like, man, you guys aren't playing right now, and I bet you wish you were having the opportunity to play. But if you are able to soak up anything from all of these like legendary Hall of Fame players across, like Horford, Jalen, Jayson, Hall of Fame. Drew Holiday is going to be a good shot to make the Hall of Fame as well. Like, I loved that from Walsh, and he said something about his shooting. It's like, I feel like I've come a long way with my 3-point shot. I feel like if I'm open, it's going in. And I feel like my team feels like that, and the coaching staff feels like that too. So just trying to use that to my advantage and get the respect of not just our guys, but get the respect of the defense, so I can start to leverage my own athleticism to attack closeouts. So I'm like, that is the Jordan Walsh that we envisioned. It's like, can you just be that 35, 36% 3-point shooter and then just drive closeouts and be super athletic? And because we've always liked the processing and the decision-making, like some of the finishing around the rim at Summer League, I was like, ooh.
Well, yeah. And
big difference between making shots in practice and in scrimmages and shooting 35, 36, 39% in the NBA.
Yeah, just like surface level capable 3-and-D role player would be a huge leap and development. And if we're not asking too much, slight bump in like team defensive IQ as well, because like we've seen him be decent one-on-one. I know he kind of gambles a lot and gets himself into a tough position, which is why I'm talking about it from like a team perspective. Like, can he maybe gamble less? Although the gambling, the aggressiveness defensively might be part of the identity this year. But whatever the team directive is, like, can he play more within the flow of that? I think would be hopefully not asking much of a year 3 Jordan Walsh.
It is year 3 Jordan Walsh.
It's like a lifetime.
He's played. This is his 3rd season, but he's played 486 minutes. It's and most of it's coming garbage time. So, and he's still 21.
Sure. I would still like to see something new, which I don't think is asking too much.
Yeah. But, I mean, as would I. He's definitely on the intriguing list for sure.
Josh Minot signing off his Celtics social media tweet as "Why not Minot?" Is that just like, not to toot our own horns too much and like, please like knock me off my high horse has anyone else, is that happening anywhere else? I feel like we've been doing this whole why not thing. No one else has. Surely someone in his life, someone else has said that, but it feels.
Oh, he said it in Summer League.
Did he? Okay.
Yes, I'm pretty confident.
I want to say I arrived at that independently.
I actually think you did. I think you did, but then I think it's very possible that happened, and then he said that, but then maybe I thought that it happened, and you.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Anyway, but I do like Minot. I liked his press conference stuff. Definitely he's a spoony. I think he's a sneaky favorite of the Celtics sickos that listen to this podcast right now. So And there was a very consistent, like, from especially the new guys saying, like, Joe Mazzulla is kind of crazy, but I love him and I'm ready to run through a wall for this guy.
Please, we're going to need it. Someone might need to actually run through a wall for us to be good this year.
It's going to be funny. Joe's like, I keep hearing how you guys are ready to run through a wall for me. And then he has like a wall for them to try and run through at training camp. It's like, who trusts me? Who actually trusts me?
Absolutely. Jaylen Brown, the Bill Nye thing is just, it's crazy because no one could have picked that in 1,000 years. Like, if you did a billion simulations of how this corner of the universe would have eventuated, none of them would have included the pairing of Bill Nye the Science Guy and Jaylen Brown. So, whatever. Like, I've never been this huge Bill Nye guy. Like, we didn't really get a lot of Bill Nye out in Australia, but I'm very aware of who he is. And yeah, feels like such an unlikely pairing, and it's just fucking cool, and I love it. And obviously, it's like it's all about positivity and like putting an interest in science out there in the world. And I love that Jaylen Brown is taking it upon himself to partner with someone of Bill Nye's stature in that industry, who has a foothold in sort of the education industry. I just love that that's happening. And they went down into the underbelly of TD Garden after the initial media day interviews and conducted science experiments. Derek White was there. I think his experiment failed. It was hilarious. Bill Nye stepped in and saved the day. It's great content. It's great vibes in a year where like we still need the healing vibes, Jake. And I think the Bill Nye thing is all about that. Yeah,
it definitely, seeing that felt like an episode of Intergalactic Cable. For those who watch Rick and Morty, it's like, you just flip the channel and it's like Jaylen Brown is a scientist. And you're right. It's cool that Jaylen Brown is trying to make learning cool. And I guarantee there was at least one kid that saw that and was like, I'm going to pay more attention at science class tomorrow. Like, that would be me. Like, if I was 10 and lived in Boston and loved Jaylen Brown and saw him doing that and saying how science was cool, I guarantee I would have done better in science that semester. Like 100% chance. It may have fallen off the following semester, but for at least a couple of weeks, I would have paid more attention in science class. So I love that from those guys. Yeah, it's a classic media day. Well done.
Not to mention all the science nerds who are like, guess I'm a Celtics fan now.
Yeah. Yeah, we got do we get like the Bill? It's like the Taylor Swift, Jason Kelsey thing where all the Chiefs fans get the Kelsey army, but now do we get like the Bill Nye army to join Celtics Nation?
Yeah.
All 12 of them.
Oppenheimer, posthumous Celtics fan. How deep does it go? I think we're going to wrap up. We're going to hit the Patreon. We're going to save some of this content for the Patreon as well. Any parting thoughts, Jake, before we hop over there?
It's good to be back, kind of. But good to be almost back.
Almost. Yeah, went game 1 of the preseason. I want to say it's like the 8th of October.
Yeah, it's 8th or 9th, yeah.
Yeah, 9th Aussie time, maybe 8th US. Go the Red Sox as well. Maybe we can.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, if you catch the last minute or two of the podcast, like I had it on like a second screen, and it was very tense trying to talk to Nathan Marzion while bases were loaded with no outs. Granted, that's the first. Yeah, he did. He knew. He told me. He spoiled it for me, actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think he was like a minute ahead of me. But yeah, I'm not going to front. Like, that was, I'm bandwagon fan. That's the first Red Sox game I've watched all year, and it was electric.
Absolutely. All right, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to keep it rolling, like I said, we're about to hop over to the Patreon feed for another pod to cover the more recent stuff that's come out about Tatum's recovery, mostly from Tatum himself, which has been great to hear from his perspective, what's been going on with him, like since the moment of the injury, the actual occurrence of the injury, and the rehab, and potential likelihood to return this season, and all out of his mouth. So that's been great. Thank you again for listening. We really appreciate it. We'd even appreciate it even more if you would hit that like button, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Jake Eisenberg, love your work, man. Until next time, go Celts.